Hey there, photography friends. So I'm going to take you through a collection of photos that I did during a sunrise photo walk on a harbor on the East Coast in Canada. Here's why I want to do that. First of all, I'm going to let you in on my mindset, everything that I was thinking as I took these pictures. I'm going to show you every picture I took, as well as the photos that I kind of narrowed down as the ones that I like most. And here's why I'm doing this. Because I released an ebook a couple of weeks ago, 100 Things to Photograph. And the problem that it solves is when you want to get out there and get shooting, but you just don't have any ideas. You just don't know what to shoot. So you open up this ebook, there's 100 ideas. I've organized them in kind of a unique way. And I've given you all sorts of tips about how to photograph these 100 things. But the next problem is people get out there, they choose something on the list, and then they get out there and they go, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to photograph this thing. So I chose something on the list. I basically said, I want to photograph the water or shoreline, basically. I want to photograph some shoreline. And when I was visiting a friend on the East Coast, he took me for a drive. And as soon as he showed me this harbor, I said, I'm coming back to this harbor to photograph it. And I knew that I wanted to do it at sunrise because of the light. So I was not there to photograph the sunrise, but I was there to photograph this place during sunrise light. And so you'll see what that looks like. The funny thing is, he asked me, I was struggling, do I do this at sunset or do I do this at sunrise? And one evening we were sitting around, it's just a few minutes to sunset, maybe 10 minutes. We might have been able to get to the harbor just in the nick of time before the sunset. And he said, well, how long does it take to get a picture? And I kind of laughed. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I'm going to spend like 2 or 3 hours photographing this harbor. So let's go through it and let's look at my process and the mindset here. So basically, here it is, 5:14. This is me. I hopped in the van to warm it up for a minute before I got going. You can see that there's just a little bit of light on the horizon, but we're still a few minutes away, at least 20 minutes away from the sun actually coming up. But this is how the sky looked. This was the color. Everything that I've highlighted in yellow is a picture that, for one reason or another, I'm considering it a keeper. So you're going to see that most of my photos are not keepers. I took a lot of photos. I didn't do a count, but I took a lot of photos over 2 or 3 hours, and most of them will not be keepers. Of the ones that are basically keepers, I might print 4 of them. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with these photos. I have some ideas. I might print a photo book. I might put a couple of them on my wall. But, I'm really going to narrow it down. So let's look. So I get out of the van and I took a picture of this mug. This mug has been part of my journey for several years now. It was part of a personal growth program that I did. And this trip that I went on is sort of the conclusion of a few years of growth that myself and my family went through. That this trip would not have been possible without that growth that we did. Okay, so I'm out of the van now. I snapped the picture of my mug and the beautiful pre-dawn or pre-sunrise light on the cup. And the first thing I noticed is this little shack here with a yellow door. Why did I photograph it? Because of all the neutral colors and then the pop of yellow. I was really drawn to it. Then I saw something even better. I saw an old yellow door with cracked peeling paint. I was like, oh yeah, I got to get that. And so, I took a couple of quick shots and I moved on. Basically, when I get out of the vehicle, if I'm on any kind of a photo walk, photo session, anything like that, I start shooting as soon as I can because my first photos are going to be crap. I don't care what I think in the moment. I may think that this is an amazing photo. They're going to be junk compared to the rest of the photos that I'm going to take. Probably the photos that I take in the very beginning are not going to be keepers, or very few of them are going to be keepers. But I just got to start shooting, because if I just start shooting, I'll shoot into the moment. I'm not having a moment yet. I'm just out of the van. I'm taking my first few sips of coffee. I'm happy about the coffee, right? I'm happy about the yellow door, but I'm not really in the groove yet. I'm not really flowing yet. I'm just taking my first footsteps. So I point the camera toward the sky and I take a couple pictures. As you can see, the sun is still not rising yet. But look at the beautiful light on these shanties. It is not the intense, harsh light that we're going to have in 2 or 3 hours time. It's just this beautiful soft light that lights up the faces of these shanties, and then everything else basically just falls into deep shadow. Look at the laneway, look at the roofs, look at the sides of the buildings. Nothing is really lit except the faces, and they're really facing the sunrise directly. Again, the sun isn't rising yet, but the bright part of the sky, they're facing it directly. So I kind of shot on an angle, and I thought that would give the photo a little more energy. So I take a couple shots and I move on. I'm just tweaking my composition a tiny little bit as I go. I really try and shoot the photo properly in camera, but I don't mind cropping when I edit the photos, and most of these have not been edited. Maybe a couple of them have, but for the most part, these are just straight out of camera. I'll tell you a little bit about the filter that you're seeing. You may say, I'm noticing something about these pictures. Why do they look like that? And I'll tell you about it later on. But so I see this pile of lobster traps, and I love backlight, so I love shooting into the light. And again, the sun has not risen yet, but the bright part of the sky is back there. I'm playing around with exposure, back to the shanties again. And here is where I begin to get a little bit creative. So notice what I'm doing. I'm photographing, I'm trying to isolate one shanty in particular. And then I notice the boats that you can see between the shanties. And I go, oh, there's something there. And so I mess around a little bit. Oh, actually, you know what I'm doing right here is I'm taking a series of shots that I can stitch together in Lightroom to create a panorama. That's what I'm doing. And then I tried to do the in-camera panorama, and it's okay, but I'd rather stitch it together myself. Then I noticed the boats, and I go, oh, I can use these, I can shoot the boats through the shanties and kind of use the shanties to frame the boats. And, it wasn't working the greatest, so I took a couple shots, and I moved on. It was an idea, and it was worth pursuing. I'm not sure if I come back to it or not. It's funny because... no, we don't see it in these photos yet. So I just started to have fun. And I'm drawn toward colors, right? I'm drawn toward this particular fishing boat because of the color, because of the teal, because of the stripe of yellow and teal that work together. I just love this. I was just wandering around, making snapshots of whatever caught my eye. Here the sun is about to come up. You can see it just about to poke up on the horizon. But it's not up yet, so I just keep shooting. And I believe I used a 35 millimeter lens. So I'm using the Fujifilm X-E4 mirrorless camera. It is a crop sensor, so I'm using a 35 millimeter film. But if you're using, or lens, sorry, but if you're using a full frame camera, the 35 millimeter on mine would be a little bit more like a 50 millimeter on a full frame camera. So I mess around with exposure a little bit and whatnot. Then I turn back around to capture the beauty of the sunrise. And there we go, just the first hint of sun. I got to be honest, and this might sound like a sin to you, although I guarantee, I don't know, 10, 20% of you are going to agree with me. I don't care about sunrises and sunsets. I mean, they are beautiful, and I love the atmosphere. I love being out there, but I don't love photographing them. I just don't. And I understand that these pictures... they have a sense of beauty to them and whatever. But really what I love to photograph, and I do love a sunset or sunrise sky, I'm not there to photograph it. It just doesn't do anything for me. What I love is this light. What I love is turning around and seeing the objects that the sun is lighting up, or the pre-sunrise light and the first moments of light. But notice how it's changed now that the sun starts to poke up. Notice how that teal boat looks quite a bit different. The light on it. We'll go back here. It looks a lot different. Once the light starts to hit it directly, the colors really start to change. And I know we're not quite seeing as much of the boat, but something changes as the light changes. It's just not the same anymore. Now, I'm still going to photograph for at least another hour or so because I do love this light. And I love the way it's going to grow more and more harsh, more and more intense. Take another picture of the mug. And notice how the mug is almost a silhouette at this point. Not quite, because it's white and it's going to be reflecting a lot of light. But it's definitely falling into something like a silhouette. That's because of the intense brightness of the light in behind it. All right, so I wander around. Let me see. I think I'm going to increase the size of these thumbnails a little bit. And I notice, I don't think it's in this picture. So again, I'm shooting the boats, and I'm not particularly inspired by this angle, but a crow flies into my shot. And these, I've heard these crows all morning, and one flies into my shot. Now, this is not the best shot in terms of composition and everything, but I love the fact that this crow flies in. And then I decide I'm going to try and get some shots of the crow. Now, I can't get very close before it flies away, so it's never going to become the main subject of my photo. But I love it. It's sort of the third element, so to speak. And photographer Dave Broshaw was the person who I heard use this term, bringing in the third element in your photograph. Usually there are a couple of great things in your photograph. So for me, it's the boats and the light in these photographs. But some of the shots are kind of missing something. I wish something else was there. I wish there was a person or something. And so in some of these photos, the crow and later on some pigeons are going to become the third element in the photo. I love the light, I love the scenery, but the birds add a third element. So again, even though I'm not completely excited about this composition or anything, I like the fact that the crow's there. And I know if I pursue the crow, I'll get some better shots. There you can barely see the crow. It's sitting on top of the lobster traps. Flies away or something. Moves anyways. Oh yeah, moves. Yeah, it's really not even standing out. I should have really recomposed so that, I'm not sure if you can even see the crow. Yeah, I'm going to circle it. Oh, no, I'm not. Oh, yes, I am. Good. It worked today. So the crow is right here. I should have moved myself over this way so that the crow would be against the sky and then it would pop out. But, you know, again, it's a photo walk, and I'm not here to make award-winning photos. I'm here to explore and to make a collection of photos that might give me a couple of shots that I really like that I'll use for something someday. Crow takes off. So you can see how it really, well, and you can see here how it stands out against the sky. So I'm just, again, I'm looking for that third element. I've got some beautiful scenery, I've got, or architecture or whatever, I've got the sky, and the bird is the third element. It's the life form in the shot. Look at that beautiful light. Look at those colors. Man, I just feel like I'm there again. I feel like I'm in this, I just feel like I'm there. What is this effect on my photos? Why are we getting this strip of sharpness and then this blur? I have not applied any editing to these photos. They're all straight out of camera, 99% of them anyways. I may have edited a couple. I'm really liking this composition. Notice how I'm working it. So I go from the safe shot to, it's like, just get a shot with a bird in it, just get a shot. Okay, and then once I got the shot, I go, okay, it's still sitting there. So I move a little bit, and I bring more into the foreground. We got the lobster traps, and I get another shot. I got my second safe shot, and it's a better shot, I think. And then I go, what happens if I move a little bit more? And so I'm working the scene, and I'm moving. I like this, but I think I like this composition best. We can still see the bird. We can see its profile. We see the beautiful color of the light on the lobster traps. Again, it's indirect sunlight at this point because I'm in the shade of the shanties. But you can see the sunlight skimming the roof. I think if I could do anything, if I were to edit this, and maybe I will do just a really quick edit here, what I would do is just bring down the highlights in the sky a little bit, just so that the sky pops a little bit more. This just so happens to be a JPEG, but I do have a RAW version. I do have the RAW file. I was shooting JPEG and RAW. I'll explain why in a moment when I explain the apparent filter that is on these photos. I am loving this photo. This is going to be a print, I can tell you right now. So I'm going to give a 5-star rating just to mark it. Not because I feel like it's 5 stars, but just because I want to mark it. And this is going to be a print of some sort or another. Oh, or this one. Oh boy. No, this one. This is the one. Okay. Remove the 5-star, and we're just going to quickly bring down those highlights. Again, I can work with the raw image later on, but I am loving this shot. There's another one, and I think I like this one better. There's just something where I've now moved beyond there's something, the light changes the angle. I'm just not digging this as much anymore. And who knows, you might even like this shot better than the one that I've. Now look at this when I bump up the exposure. You know, I felt as though maybe it was a little too dark, but I don't think so. I actually think I like that light better than that light there. And notice that I've shifted my focus now. I've now said, I think I've done everything I can do with this bird. Let's focus on the lobster traps now. And that's probably why my exposure changed, because now I'm focused on something darker, right? I'm not shooting toward the bright sky. And what's my shooting mode? So I'm basically in manual mode where I've chosen my shutter speed, I've chosen my aperture, and you can see those numbers. I'm going to circle them right here if you're interested in my camera settings. Pay attention up here on every photo. I'm at 500th of a second, I'm at f5.0, and I'm at ISO 5000. Why was I at ISO 5000? That is insane. Well, first of all, because it's so dim outside, but I should have been shooting at a shutter speed of like 250th of a second or 125th of a second or something like that. That would have allowed my ISO to drop a lot lower and the photos would not be as grainy and noisy. But using a brand new camera at ISO 5000 in decent light, when you're not going to be brightening the photos. Like, I'm not going to brighten this photo. And usually as you brighten a photo, that's when the noise really comes out. If anything, I'm going to darken this photo. But I should have been paying more attention. But I don't really care. My ISO is on auto. So I say I'm in manual mode because I'm selecting my shutter speed and my aperture, but my ISO is on auto. And then I'm using exposure compensation. If I feel like the photo is too bright or too dark, I just use my exposure compensation dial to adjust it. And my camera will adjust the ISO accordingly. I set my ISO limits. ISO is never going to go above 6400. I'm okay with that if it has to go that high. Usually I try to keep my shutter speed as slow as I can while still freezing the action. And that way my ISO will stay as low as possible. So I'm playing around with the light and with these lobster traps here. Not really ending up with anything I'm overly excited about. It starts to get kind of silhouette-ish. You know, I'm afraid that it's really hard to expose well for the lobster traps and the sun in the background. Again, I can play with the raw image and certainly balance it out a little bit. Okay, here we go. Back to this is where, and notice how the light on the shanty has changed, how it's so much more intense and vibrant. The orange sunlight is just saturating everything, and it's so beautiful. And I use the shanties to frame the boats here. This is something I probably didn't actually notice it earlier on, and then I'm walking by and I go, oh, wow, look at that. So whenever I'm walking around, I'm photographing just whatever catches my eye, and I'm making snapshots, and I'm trying to compose them as well as I can in the moment. But then I start to ask myself, like, what have you been ignoring? Can you find anything to frame your photos with? Like, is there a frame within a frame? The way I use these shanties to frame the boats. Are there leading lines anywhere? Like, what can you play with? Are there repeating shapes? And so, of course, there are a lot of repeating shapes. There's a repeating shapes of the lobster traps, the boats, the shanties, everything. Not a whole lot of leading lines, I wouldn't say. Not the kind that I like to work with. And so, you know, I didn't do a lot with lines. Was not a huge fan of the shoreline around here. I mean, I snapped a couple photos just to, bring in the rest of the environment. What is it about things like lobster traps and apple crates, barn crates and things like that that we love? I mean, I see people use lobster traps and old barn board crates as decor, even in their homes, inside or outside their homes. And what is it? There's something beautiful about that weathered wood. And you see these two blue bins here. Nobody's ever going to decorate their house with those bins, but they will decorate their house with old weathered wood. And that old weathered wood is really just what's drawing me to this harbor. The harbor itself, the lobster traps, the shanties, the fishing boats. Fishing boats have this simple elegance to them. They have this beauty. They're like little icons of, I want to say the simple life, but no fisherman is ever going to tell you that fishing is simple, right? It's like farming. It's not simple. It seems like it, and in a sense it is, but I mean, it's anxiety inducing. You don't know if you're going to catch anything. You don't know what the length of the season is going to be. You don't know if your crops are going to grow. So, and yet there is something very attractive about it to me. And so I'm loving this. I'm loving the light here. And one thing I like about this is the color, the play between the blue bin and the warm light, the cool bin and the warm light. So even though this bin is not beautiful, it's not like the lobster traps. Could you imagine decorating your house with a mouse trap? Nobody's going to decorate their house with a mouse trap. But I look at these lobster traps and I'm like, wow, they're so beautiful. Completely different light. Look at the light. Absolutely different light. Definitely not inspired by this. Took the shot, moved on. Look at that light though. That is absolutely beautiful. See, this is shade over here, and then we get the first. We're still probably within the first 15 minutes or so of sunlight here. It's just absolutely beautiful the way it's hitting these boats. I promise I will tell you about the shooting mode that I was in and how it happened. Actually, no, I'm not. You're going to have to go find a video because I'm going to record a video just about that shooting mode. And it's going to be, I'm going to publish it at the same time as this video. I was walking by this little, notice this little strip of sunlight here. And this is the thing, like I'm not just looking, I'm back. No, this is another yellow door. But as I'm wandering around, I'm not just looking at the buildings or just looking at the water or the sunset, but I'm looking for these interesting little slices of light. And I didn't do enough with these on this photo walk. So I'm going to pay more attention on my next photo walk to these little slivers of light, and I'm going to see what I can do with them. Can I find something in that sliver of light? Like there might have been a flower or something here that I could have worked with. There might have been something I could have worked into the foreground of this light and made some kind of interesting silhouette here. I'm not sure. What I did end up doing was standing in that slice of light and getting my shadow. And I thought, hey, I like this. This is cool. This is a cool shot. Again, just having fun, right? Like, I'm not going to enter it into a contest. It's not fine art. It's just having fun. And it was fun. See, I'm in flow right now. So I can't define flow for you. Stuff has been written about it, but when you're in that creative state, you're in that state of creation, writing, listening to your favorite album, out on a photo walk, whatever it may be, painting your house, cleaning your house, scrubbing the floors on your hands and knees, and you're in this flow state. Your whole mind is just engaged in the task that you're doing, and time means nothing. You are not aware of the passing of time. You are fully present to the moment, and I'm there now. I am fully present. You'll notice that I take a shot of is this the same door? I don't even know anymore. No, I don't think it's the same door. No, but there's a few different yellow doors, and so you can see that I'm playing around with angles. And I think I like this shot, one of these shots here, better than the first shot I took. See, the first shot I just stood there and I took the two-dimensional shot, the shot that I opened with, the shot where I said, just start shooting. You're not being creative yet. You're not in flow. You're not thinking. Just start shooting. And why don't I go back and, okay, so I highlighted a couple of these different ones here as potential keepers, but we'll just really quickly go back to that very first shot that I took so that you can compare them, and you tell me in the comments, tell me which one you like better, the first shot or the second shot. And oh yeah, we're back here a little bit. The mug threw me off. I thought that was the first mug shot that I took. I do like the first mug shot better. Almost there. I have so many photos in this catalog. If I scroll too quickly, I just zip right by. Okay, so I think we're going to compare these two. Which one do you like better? Do you like this first one I took or this one? Personally, I like this one. I like the depth in this photo. This one, I'm distracted by the bright alleyway there, And I was trying to get rid of that bright alleyway. See, now I'm thinking, I've had my coffee, the creativity is flowing. And by the way, I do not believe that stimulants like coffee I don't think alcohol is a stimulant, but these things that change your mind, right? These things that change your psychology, they change your mental state. Coffee, alcohol, cocaine, marijuana, all these things. I do not believe for a second that they are necessary to the creative process. In fact, I truly believe that they are hindrances. You are addicted to them. If you drink coffee, you're addicted. If you smoke pot, you drink alcohol on any kind of a regular basis, even if it's just weekly, like once a week or something, I promise you, you may think you're enjoying a glass of wine in the evening, and what you're enjoying is relieving the anxiety induced by your addiction, whether it's one coffee in the morning, one glass of wine in the evening, a couple cigarettes throughout the day, a snort of Coke, whatever it is. And none of it is necessary to the creative process. None of it helps you. You may be like, oh gee, I forget his name off the top of my head. Speaker, writer, famous atheist. Oh man, Christopher Hitchens. He could drink a lot. He could be drunk a lot. He could write incredible pieces and speak eloquently while drunk. And you might be like Stephen King, where you can snort cocaine and produce a best-selling novel. But I promise you, and this comes right from Stephen King himself, that you are far better off without the drugs. Whatever you can do on drugs, even if it's just a cup of coffee in the morning, like I like to enjoy, or a couple beers or once a week or something like that, you will do so much better. You will think so much better if you can just get into that creative flow state. And for photographers, it means get up, drag yourself out of bed, defeat resistance, whatever the source of resistance is in your life. Defeat it, beat it. Get out there, just drag your butt out there to the harbor and start shooting. And don't be concerned about your first few minutes of photos, because you'll get the pretty ones later. Sorry, you probably didn't tune in to listen to me preach, but that's what you got anyways. In the comments, let me know if there is any addiction in your life. And there are so many things we're addicted to. Scrolling on our phones. We're addicted to the feelings of drama, political drama. We're addicted to, there was another thing I was going to say, food. Drop a comment letting me know what addictions you have overcome. I have recently overcome, in my life, I've overcome smoking. I've overcome food addictions, dropped like 50 pounds. I dropped the weight before defeating the addiction, by the way. That's one of the things that I was most afraid of, was that I wouldn't be able to last. Hey, look at this mugshot. Beautiful light in the van. I just absolutely love the way we get this light streaming in. I'm liking this mugshot better than the very first mugshot that I took. Partially because, that first mugshot was nothing but the mug, and it was sort of the mug and the light. Now it's the mug and the light and the van. I brought in the third element. Thank you, Dave Broshaw, for referencing the third element. I don't know whether that's your own term or not, but the fact that you mentioned it to me has helped to change my photos. Even though I was shooting this harbor before I ever met Dave Broshaw, who is from the island, who's from Prince Edward Island. But I can now recognize when I go back and look at my photos, why do I like that one more? And I go, oh, it's got the third element. Thank you, Dave. I'm liking the silhouette here. Not like super excited. I love the muscle boat. Oh, you know what I did later on? So I photographed this muscle boat. And then later on, I played with the light and shadow. So, okay, birds. So we got crows again. Are these crows? No, these are pigeons, I think, at this point. And I know that, there's nothing pretty about this, right? But I like it. I like it that it's so gross. It's decaying, and it's wires and pigeons. I was afraid I was going to get pooped on the way I went and stood, right under them. Look at this. Ah, I just love it. Looks like a little toy boat, doesn't it? Playing around with the cropping. See, I kind of like this, even though I'm cropped into the front of the boat, but I kind of like this too. And the thing is, I was going for a kind of a snapshot feel with some imperfections. So I was thinking carefully about my composition, but part of the careful thinking was, I think I want to cut the boat off. I think I want my framing and whatnot to be a little imperfect. I think that's what I'm going for. And so this, I would say, is perfect. Now, is it perfect, perfect, perfect? No, but this is perfect for me, right? This is imperfect, and I think I'm liking the imperfect one better. But it was sort of getting the safe shot. And then I'm playing with exposure. What does it look like when I underexpose? This is really nice. Look at that. Play with your exposure on the photo walks. Again, playing with my shadow again. I like the danger sign. I don't know what was supposed to be dangerous. Maybe the old rickety stairs. I'm not 100% sure. But I just shot it. I'm just having fun. And I like to get myself in the photo a little bit, the shadows. Just playing. Shooting everything that catches my eye. Now, I came back to the harbor a couple of days later, and I reshot some of it. And I'll tell you why. I'll explain that in a bit. But I'm just giving you a heads up that I left here happy, really happy with the shots that I got. Just really, really happy with the time that I had. Really happy with the process of making these photos. I knew I was going to have some photos that I was happy with. I knew that I didn't need these photos. We got the third element again, the bird. Everything's out of focus but the bird. I knew that I didn't need these photos for anything. It was all about the process. And, yes, it was about making some pretty pictures as well. But it was the process. It was get out there. It was about defeating resistance. It was about hauling my lazy butt out of bed at, around 5 in the morning, boiling the kettle. Oops, not sure what I did there. Boiling the kettle, making my coffee in a French press, and hitting the road, chasing the crows. You notice that if a crow hangs around long enough, and I think that's a crow, not a pigeon, I will play with the shot until I get it just right. You notice that in a picture like this, I get a couple of the different lampstands, and I kind of use the wires as a bit of, not exactly leading lines. Yeah, see, I like this. I like that out of focus lampstand in the background. I like that. I do like the depth in this photo. I do really like it. I'm just playing. Like, there's going to be a time when I have to take an amazing photo, and I might only have 5 minutes to get the photo, and I get the shot because I've gone out there and I practiced. I've been in the flow state, and I know what it feels like, and I know the ideas that go through my mind, and you can, at times, produce the flow state by will, by sheer force of will, because you remember exactly what it feels. You were just self-conscious enough in the flow state to say, I'm in the flow state. This is what it feels like. And you can learn to produce the flow state on command. And I'll tell you what, it is way better than getting high. It is way better than your morning coffee, your evening glass of wine, your whatever. I noticed this open door and the boots there. I don't know that I really got a shot that I'm particularly happy with. I kind of wish I just got the boots and the door and everything. I kind of did over here, I guess. But yeah, I guess I kind of did. I wish I had like a vertical shot, but I could crop this. And I appreciated the way the light was streaming in and hitting these traps. I thought that was pretty neat. We got the shadows kind of framing them. Again, I got my own shadow in there. Then I did something from the side for a little more depth. This is probably a shot that I like more. I tend to like the shots with a little bit of depth, a little bit of angle, versus the more two-dimensional shots. But I still shoot the two-dimensional ones, and in a way, it's the obvious shot. And then I go, well, I got the obvious shot. What do I do now? And I think I wish I got a little bit closer to this building and did something with the window looking in. Um, I mean, these doors were wide open and nobody was around. There was video surveillance. I think it would have been trespassing to go in. But I think also somebody might have seen, okay, this is a dude with a camera. He's not, he's just photographing. Notice the way I frame these lobster traps. I'm still looking for that frame within a frame when it's available. Because the traps all on their own and the boats all on their own, it's like I've kind of done that. So let's do something different. Let's get a pile of lobster traps with some context, with make it sort of an environmental sort of shot with the boats in the background. Played around with the flag. I ended up flipping the photo, started with one like this and flipped it because I didn't like the composition. I felt like this was backwards. Even though we're looking at the proper side of the flag, I felt like compositionally I wanted to flip it. So I did. I think I did, or did I just move? No, I flipped it. All right, we are coming toward the end, and I want to show you part 2. So I'm going to kind of flip through these a little more quickly. So basically what's going on here is that the sun is rising more and more. It's getting more and more harsh. You can really see the shanties look quite a bit different now. The light's getting pretty intense. I know that I'm coming to the end. I know that I'm losing interest. I've walked all the way around, sort of the horseshoe shape of the harbor. I'm now starting to photograph fragments of rope and driftwood. I do love this photo. This is beautiful, I think. The richness of the colors. You're going to find out what I was using to produce these photos. Don't forget to look for that other video. Taking another picture of the mug. And let's get to the end. So I walk along the back side of those shanties eventually. I was drawn to the color here. The color of the shovel, the teal shovel. I think I go back and take more pictures of it later. So the bins and the shovel match. And I think there was something else teal on the boat, the rope. And so I took a few shots. I didn't get one that I was super excited about. I guess I like this yellow one. Highlighted one. Okay, so let's get to the back side of these shanties. And I realize if I had been on this side of the shanties when the sun rose, I could have got the sun beaming through those open doors, and that would have been so neat. But it's too late at this point. The sun is too high. I try to get some shots. I try to get low enough to the ground, and I can't get the sun to go through the doors. So what I do, I get it cresting the roof and that kind of thing. But basically, I knew I missed a chance. And then I decide eventually to come back, mess around here, just not liking the light anymore. But when I show you part 2, and I think we'll just skip right over to part 2. There were a few more shots there, but not too many. Maybe do another video about this lobster and what was going on with it. Okay, I've got to find a photo here that's flagged. Bring up my flagged shots. And that'll help me get back to where I need to get. Okay, here we go. And so basically, I go back to the harbor another day. I thought I was done. I thought I was finished with the harbor. And I decided to go back because I want that third element in the shot. I want a human presence in the shot. So I take a few photos. The problem here is we don't get a sunrise because it's overcast. Now, it's actually just a bank of clouds low to the horizon. So eventually the sun comes up, but I don't get that first 15 minutes to a half an hour of sunlight that's going to give me the best light. Instead, I get a lot of overcast, and then eventually I do get the sun. So, and I will head back. Now, you recall this scene, And what I do is I decide to compose the shot here where it's kind of a lot of an empty frame, right? There's a lot of concrete here. And I know if I put a human presence in there, it'll make an interesting shot. So I put myself in there. I just set the timer to shoot a photo every second, and I walk into the scene and I move around a little bit. I took a lot of shots, and these are just basically the ones that I thought were any good whatsoever. And I walk back to the camera and I walk back out, and I'm reviewing the photos and I'm going like, oh, like for example, I feel like I was over here, I was standing a little bit too close. It's a little bit cluttered. I wish I was a little bit to the left. So this time I move over to the left a little bit more. Now the sun is starting to come out and it's actually getting a little bit too intense. Now it's starting to ruin the photo because it's blasting right into the camera. But it's okay, I like it. It's a sense of mystery. You know, it's a little too intense, but it was what it was. And again, had this been a half an hour earlier, it would have been very different light. It would have been very doable. But it's a little bit intense here. So I recompose a little bit. I think this was one of the shots that I liked. As you can see, now the sun disappears and things look very different, right? Now you can actually kind of see me a little bit. And the whole scene kind of cools down a bit. All right, so now I go between the two buildings because now the sun's actually out. I'm like, oh, I hightail it over to these buildings. Unfortunately, I think, again, that the sun is a little bit too high. If only the clouds hadn't been there. But I still like this shot. I still like this. I like the feel of it, the atmosphere kind of thing. And I decide I'm going to walk into the shot. I try some different exposures and whatnot. Actually, oh, I didn't even keep one here to show you. So I did not like the photo. I put myself in the shot as that third element. And it's very two-dimensional. And I'm just kind of walking by. And here we go. Just like this. And I'm like, this doesn't cut it. It's just not interesting. Okay, let's see. There was one other shot. Again, not the greatest, not super. Actually, no, it worked out okay. Okay, so this one here, I set up the camera. Again, on a bit of an angle, we got some depth. And then, I do a couple things here before. Okay, then I set up the camera and I walk out into the scene. And it's, you know, not the most incredible photo or anything like that, but I like it. It's okay. It's just different. It now adds to my collection. Then I go and I sit over here, and then I recompose a little bit, and I get a few shots, and then a boat comes up. If I had been on a completely different angle, I might have actually caught the fact that it's a boat. You can't actually tell that these guys are on a boat because the boat is sitting so low in the harbor. Okay, there we go. So there is a photo walk. There's my process. You know, just get out of the van and start shooting. Enjoy the light, enjoy the process, work on perspective and angle, look for that third element when possible. Go back to, you know, once you've reviewed your videos, your photos from day one, go back on day two. And even if the lighting conditions are different, try something else. Get yourself into the shot. Find some birds, find a stray cat, whatever it may be. Take your coffee mug with you if you're sentimental about coffee mugs, and just get out there and work it. Grab my 100 ideas list, pick an idea on the list, go out there and shoot. Shoot the light, shoot the objects, shoot the people. Of course, I'm talking about your camera. And, you know, just photograph until you start to feel like, I'm done. I think I'm done now. You'll notice yourself leave flow and be ready to move on. You're probably looking at 90 minutes, give or take a little bit.